And for today's project, we are making a tote bag. We're making a tote bag with gussets and with lining, and I am so excited. I cannot wait. And it is continued in the series from last week's bag that we made, and another exciting one coming up the week after. So sit on back and let's get to it. So for our tote bag today with pockets, we're going to need a 19-inch wide piece of fabric for the outside of the bag, or the body of the bag. We're going to need a 4.5 or 5-inch width of fabric for the handle. We're going to have a long handle over the shoulder, and then we're going to have a pocket. So our pocket, we're going to have the same width as the bag, 19 inches by about 10 inches deep. I think that's about good for anything we need. And we're going to go ahead and cut a second lining identical to the first, 19 inches by 36 for the inside of the bag as well. So we are going to go ahead and get started. And what we're going to use is, this is the bag we made last week. And now we're going to make another bag out of the same canvas outside material. And then we have a trigger fabric that is pretty much the same, just the weave is different. So you can call them both canvas if you like. And let's go ahead and get to it. So we're at the cutting board, and we're going to go ahead and cut out our measurements for the outside of the bag and cut out our measurements for the inside of the bag, the lining, and they're going to be the same size. And since our fabric is not flat to start with, we're going to go ahead and press it out so we get true measurements. All right, so we're laying this out. We want to lay it flat on one of these lines, and we want it flat on the bottom line. And as we can see from this, it is a good 1/4 inch off, so we're going to go ahead and smooth it up on the bottom, as well as then measure it and cut our 19 inches across. We're using our weights to help hold the ruler. We've got ourselves directly on the bottom line. And we're going to go ahead and open our ruler, and we're going to cut it slowly across, making sure our fingers are way up out of the way. And just go slowly. If you have a very sharp blade, you should cut through the first time. I don't think I did. I'm wondering if that blade was even working. So let's push it. There we go. I feel better about that slice. And we pull it off, and we have a perfectly smooth bottom. We're back at the ironing board, and we have our inside pocket that is the full length of the side, so you can put your books, your newspapers. You've got an extra pocket in there, and you can always sew down the strips if you want pockets for rulers, pens, pencils, anything else, or even make it smaller. So what we're going to do is go ahead and turn up the top edge, and we're going to press it so it stays and behaves. And be very, very careful of a hot iron with steam, because that thing will bite you. And we've got that, and that is just in between a 1/4 inch and a 1/2 inch. So it's a very small turn. And then we're going to go ahead and turn it one more time. You might want to let it dry in between. And this time we're going to turn it down about 1 inch. So we get a pure professional size, and maybe you can see that steam coming up from the iron. We want to get it nice and steady so we don't have to use so many pens. Okay, and we're stitching it to where the part that we turned up is going to be locked in with the stitches that we're now putting across. And we're just doing a nice, simple stitch across. We have a 3 stitch loop. And we're working today, my friends, on the Husqvarna Lightning. sewing across the top of the bag now, keeping the edge of the foot at the top. And that way we're sealing it, making a finished product. As well, I just love the way the white and the brown look. So call me crazy. I like a little bit of style even though it's inside of the bag. We're working on the inside lining of the purse first, and we've put a pin in each of our corners and then one halfway across the bottom. And as you see, we have the lining opened up. We're just putting that on the half of the bag. And now we're going to go ahead and stitch the 3 sides. And as you see on the bottom of the pocket, we did not have to hem the bottom of the pocket. Normally you would hem, but we are using a canvas type fabric, and it does have the selvage here. So the selvage is already reinforced and solid, so we don't need to make that extra hem. We're able to use the selvage on the bottom of the pocket, but that is the only place we're using selvage. And we're just going to finish going across the bottom and then up on the side. And of course, to put it under our sewing machine arm, we are just rolling it so it smoothly flows. We're now at the part where if you want pockets in your bag, now is when you would go ahead and sew those lines. And remember, if you sew them close together, it's great for pens, pencils, paint brushes, whatever your project is, or large enough for a hairbrush, whatever size hairbrush. I'm going to leave it wide open because I'm thinking about sticking a magazine in there, and I'm good with just the magazine open, fully open size. But again, now is the time where you would put in extra pockets if you desire. Okay, and we're going to take both sides of our inside lining for the bag, and we're going to sew about a 1/2 inch in, just straight down one side, then straight down the other side. For the 1/2 inch mark, you have to have a guide, so pick out a place on your machine that's about a 1/2 inch. We're going right through the center of that hole right there, and we're going slow enough to make sure that we stay a 1/2 inch the entire direction. And right down and off the bottom of that edge. All right, our lining has been finished, and now we are working with the inside out of our bag. And so I'm trying to open this up to show you the darkers on the inside. This is the right side, so right sides together. And we've just put a pin at the top and a pin at the bottom of each side just to hold it straight. Now we're just going to sew a straight line down here and a straight line down here. And as you remember on our lining, we did a 1/2 inch. Now we're only going to do a 1/4 inch on the outside bag here. And we're using our 1/4 inch. And we'll pull it out, flip it around, and do a 1/4 inch seam on the opposite side. And as you can see, this is the inside bottom of our bag. It is one large piece, 36 inches by 19 inches. Okay, so now we've finished with our 1/4 inch seams on both sides of our bag. We're going to go ahead and turn it around, and we're going to work on our gussets now. So we're going to take our bag and pull it open. And then we're going to line up our top seam, which you're looking at, this top seam, with a seam on the inside of the bag.
Which is the bottom's pressed seam.
Oh my goodness. So it's hard to even see that, but it's right on. Okay, we see that. So that seam goes right on the very center of the bottom.
Put your finger there to hold it.
And we'll hold it with our finger, making sure that we know what is there. And now we're going to go ahead and just hand press it out with the seam laying to one side. We'll put our ruler, our cardboard, whatever we would like, and we're going to have it approximately 2 inches up from the bottom, which on our pedestal is just a fraction over that 2 inches, which is great. Anywhere between that 1.5 to 2.5 mark is good, depending upon the size of your bag. We're using right near that 2 inch. So we're going to bring our makeshift ruler where we've made our marks to our bag. We're going to hold that firmly down with our hand, and without moving it, once we have it lined up, we're going to use our fabric marker. And this line is never going to show, but we are using a fabric marker. You can use any marker you choose because, again, it's never going to show. We're going to draw our line that we're going to sew right on this line. So before we sew, we're going to go ahead and put a pin above it and below it. We'll sew across that line. Once we have, we'll sew another seam a scant 1/4 inch below it. And then we'll be cutting off our little triangle gussets because that's just fabric waste. We don't need the bulk. We don't need the extra weight in our bag. So we'll be cutting that portion off. So we're going to do 2 seams across. And then we'll do the other corner, and then we're going to do the lining just the same. And we're locking in our stitch all the time when we start. It's just what we do. And if you place your pen far enough down, you won't need to remove it to do your second line. If you do need to remove the pens, they're no longer needed because those stitches are holding our bag exactly where we need them. So if you don't want to get poked or anything, go ahead and remove them. Otherwise, if they're not in the way, they don't matter. And again, we're going to go right under that 1/4 inch. We're going to have another line just below the stitch line we just made. And as you can see, our lines are extremely close. So when I said a 1/4 inch, I was probably fooling you because we are making those so close together that they're, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch apart. 16th apart. There we go. All right.
You can leave needles.
Okay, and you can leave the needles in. We're just going to go ahead and cut about a 1/4 inch under our second sew line. And then we can pop our needles out, turn the bag around, and do the identical same thing to the other side to make a gusset. And we're working on the other corner of the bag. Just like before, we made sure our seams line up with the very bottom center of the bag. We're placing our needles above and below our 2-inch mark. We're drawing our sew line. And again, if you're a 1/4 inch off, nobody's going to know the difference. This is your bag. But we're going to try and make it perfect for you for the tutorial here. All right, now up to sew it. First line, we'll do our second line, then we're grabbing the lining. And when we watch our seams with our lining, we want to make sure that we're with the bottom of the bag and not with the bottom of the pocket, because they are off just about 1/16 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, something of the sort. And we're just nipping our corners on the edge of the bag, and then we're going to go ahead and make our gussets. Okay, and we put our 1 pin in right where our seam is. Now we're going to take our measure down. And again, this is our 2-inch measure. All you have to do is use a ruler, go 2 inches up, and then make sure you're square equal on both sides. And then we're going to do our mark across for our stitch line. And just like we did on the outer part of the bag, we're going to stitch 2 lines across, one directly on this line and one below it. So we're going to pop our pin in now and then go ahead and do our 2 stitch lines. When we're stitching across our lining, we have to realize we're going across the pocket, fold it over twice, as well as the 2 layers, and then 2 more layers when we go over the seam. So go extra slow because you are going over multi-layers. And yes, this gusset does affect the pocket because we are going straight across and creating that gusset, and the pockets went all the way down to the bottom. There's our first line. We're going to do our second line, pop it around, and do our second corner. Okay, our gussets are complete. We've pulled our pins out, and now our bags are still inside out, both of them. And we are turning, what a beautiful gusset. And we're turning our outside lining, outside bag, right side out. You see that beautiful squared off bottom thanks to the gussets. And we're going to now take our lining and remember, on our lining we did our seam 1/2 inch, where we did our outside bag 1/4 inch. So we are stuffing our lining inside of our bag, laying it out, making sure it is flat. Our gussets are the same. All 4 gussets have been trimmed off.
And we will make sure our points are together on each side.
Meaning our lining and our outside bag, all points are together.
And then we'll take it to the ironing board, do a little press on our side seam, and then we are ready to start on the top to seal our two bags together. But before we do this, we're going to get our handle fabric and get it made.
Excellent. Okay, let's do the handle. So we're pressing down our seams, and the inside lining, we have the seam facing one direction, and the outside bag, we have the seam facing the opposite direction, so that the seams will lay with less bulk, because again, one seam is one direction, the other seam is the other direction. We've stuck it over the end of our ironing board, and we're just going to twist it around and do the opposite seam the same way, and then we'll probably come back to the bottom gussets and give them a quick press as well. So as you see, we're going to line them up, make sure they're all lined up, and then we'll have one seam one direction, the other seam the other direction, and press it solid and hot so they stay. And just press your side gussets down flat on both sides. And that way they stay in place. We've grabbed a hold of one gusset corner and the opposite gusset quarter, and we're pressing in a crease. And then we're going to turn it upside down, grab the opposite gusset corner and the opposite gusset corner here, and make our second bottom crease.
Bring it over here. And when we're doing that, we're also doing another crease.
Aesthetics. And the inside of our bag so far, we've got our pocket, and again, if you want this pocket to lay straight, again, put your little seams in it so you have separate pockets. And there's our bottom gussets. And working on our strap, we're just going to turn both sides in, just a scant half inch, closer to a quarter inch. You do what's comfortable for you. Then we'll put the two sides together and press them closed. Okay, and we have pressed down the sides of both, making them come over. Now we're going to go ahead and fold these together and press them down the center. And then we'll have a stitch line on this side, covering up our seams, and a stitch line on this line for aesthetics. Now we're sewing our strap. And again, we're working on our Husqvarna Viking. So when you turn off your machine, make sure you're always resetting your stitch length and your needle position. And we're going to slowly sew down both sides, doing a scant quarter inch or just under on both sides. And of course, the one side is sealing and making our strap complete. The other side is just for looks. Okay, I know there's a lot of different ways to make bags, and you may or may not have seen a tutorial where you're making the lining and the bag at the same time and not putting them together like we are. But that is the beauty of different tutorials. This way we find to be the easiest. So we have put the two together. We have pressed the bottom, so we've got that beautiful lines for the bottom square of our bag, and now we put some pins around the top. They line up perfectly, and now we're going to do our first seam around the top, and then we'll do our second seam around the top, and you'll see us put the handles on. So I am so excited about this bag. It's really coming into fruition, and I just love this pocket. So let's get stitching. And just to make the stay stitching easier for the rest of it, we're going to go ahead and separate this. So if you have the capability with your sewing machine, just go ahead and take off that drawer, and that way we don't have to bend and navigate too much. We can just put the bag right around the, what do you call it, arm of the machine, so head of the machine,
Yes.
and stitch it around.
Mm-hmm. And you can start any spot on it you feel like you want to.
Okay, so it's not necessary to start on the ends. Just start anywhere that's comfortable. Pull out the pins before you get there. And this is just one line all the way around, just to make sure the lining and the bag stay in the correct place. We get to remove our pins, and then we can start turning and making that beautiful finished look for the top of our bag. Yay! And when you come up to a seam, make sure that you're going slow, because again, you have the 2 layers of canvas plus the 2 layers of the seam. And if you've not opened your seam, but pushed one seam to one side and the other seam to the other side, you're not going over as many layers. And that's why we showed you on the ironing board. You press one seam one direction, the opposite seam the other direction, then we pin them so they stay right in place. And we're just going to give a quick stitch all the way around the top of the bag, and hopefully you can see we're doing roughly a 1/4 inch around the top. And many people, seamstress, bag makers, etc., call this a stay stitch. So the bag stays in place, and then we can go ahead and manipulate the edges and the sides the way we need to. Okay, so we've gone all the way around the bag with our stay stitch. Trim any loose threads from both your stitch as well as the fabric. And now we're going to fold it down
About a little more than a 1/4.
a little more than a 1/4. If you're at your ironing board, it's easy to go ahead and press it so it stays. Or if you don't want to walk back out, simply use a pen. And again, my friends, we are turning this twice. So we're turning it a 1/4 inch, and then we're turning it a full inch. And we're just
1/4.
using our pens.
And then a full.
To keep it there. And we're going to go all the way around the top of the bag doing this.
1/4, then a full.
Okay, so we have folded the bag over. We've put our pins in it. We've actually given it a quick little press. So now we are ready to go ahead and stitch. We're going to stitch right up here. Then we'll do another pretty right at the end. So this is also the stage where we're going to put our handles in. So we're going to put our handles right at our seam. We're putting them under the seam before anything is stitched. And then it's going to go upright. So that is a lot of layers, my friends, to go through. So your pen probably doesn't want to go through all of the layers, but we want to go ahead and pin it in place. So when we put her under the sewing machine, we use our pens as extra hands. Wouldn't we all do with another dozen hands? Okay, and we have our little foot lift out of our sewing machine. If you don't have it, use a large button, but you probably saw us use this in the last tutorial making a bag. We're going to gently slide it under the back of the foot when we start to raise to go over the handle, because we're doing so many different layers. And then we'll pop it in the front of the foot as we come off on the other side. And it's just called a foot lift. Lift the foot, slide it right under there. It's got the hole in it, or the edges, so the stitches go right through the center. It just makes our foot level, because on a sewing machine, if your foot is not level with the fabric, it has a hissy fit. And we don't want our sewing machine to have a hissy fit. So we go ahead and assist with the foot lift to get up onto the multi-layer of strapping, and then we'll help it gently come down with the smaller side on the opposite side. Of course, pulling out our pins before we sew over them, as these are very sharp, very thin pins. And again, coming off the height of the strap, the multi-layers, just go really slow using your foot lift, and then we can pull it out when we've made a few stitches on the other side. And we're going to go all the way around the back, and when we get to the other strap, we'll use the foot lift as well. And then we're going to the top of that edge on the other side. And if I didn't say so, our bag is inside out right now. So our stitches, we're stitching from the inside out. Making a final finish touch on the top strap of our bag. We are so close to being done, my friends. Cannot wait to throw this over my shoulder and go traveling with it. What do you think? To the park with all my crafting goodness. And we come right up to our second end of the strap, where all the seams of the side of our bag is. And then we'll use the foot lift to level out our foot to go over the straps, just like we did on the other side. And when you use pins, my friends, they are just like having extra hands holding everything in place, so you don't have to worry about anything getting moved or torqued as you sew around. Then we'll just use our lift on the front of the foot as we come off of the strap. A couple of stitches off the strap, and we can remove our foot lift. All right, and just finishing up that first row of stitches around the top edge of our bag. Okay, now we're stitching around the top, doing about a scant 1/4 inch. And we do a back stitch going on the strap, back stitch going off the strap, reinforcing those straps, because I want to fill this up with books and be able to swing it around and feel confident. So if somebody tries to grab my bag, it is not going to separate from the strap. lot of my friends have talked about doing their zigzag stitch or their fancy stitches. You can always do that. There's always room to add additional things. You could also do this with a walking foot, and that way it might be a little bit easier for you with a walking foot. And just going over the strap one more time. Always like to reinforce it with more layers than you do around the edge of the bag. And lifting the front of the foot as you come forward. Do another back stitch. So we're going across this strap 4 times, and if we do our little X on it, obviously that's going to be 6 times around that strap. And if you're not stitching an X across, just go across a couple more times, because again, this is the weak point of the bag, and you want that bag being very secure, you want to feel very confident that the bag is secure. So I just like going forward and back a couple more times across the strap, giving myself that confidence level. And our bag is complete. We're going to go ahead and turn it right sides out and take a look. Oh, I'm so much loving this with the pocket, with the lining. Just a wonderful tote bag. Look at that pocket. I'm so excited.
And you can also put a pocket on the outside. Oops, did you not see? Let me
Yes.
hold it up. There you go. See that pocket?
So again, as many pockets as you want. It's just as simple as that. We may make a third bag where we just go crazy with pockets inside and out and closures on the top. So hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, because we have more fun and games coming to you real soon. And I cannot wait to hear that you are making a tote bag yourself as well. All right, and our tote bag is complete. I am so excited. Can't wait to sling this over my shoulder, fill it up, and take it on its first adventure. So my friends, these are excellent bags. Get happy with making these bags. Make up a bunch as gifts, and we are going to come back, probably put a loop across here with a beautiful big old button. We're going to have so much fun with bags. So yes, I'm going to do another bag tutorial. Give me a week or two and we're going to do some frou-frou. But look at this. We have gussets. You could also press the sides of the bag. You could give them those creases, maybe even sew up and down the sides of the bag, showing those beautiful gussets. This is adorable. It feels sturdy and heavy. And look at that, not heavy, but you know what I mean, strong. And we've got pocket in there. I am just so excited. Maybe even throw a keychain in here so we can have our keys dangling inside. All right, my friends, thanks for joining me today. Hit that subscribe button and see you back here real soon. See you then. And we are folding this one with no lining up and making it small. And I am just very, very excited about how small this bag actually goes. And you can put this in any of your suitcases, any bag that you carry, and pull it out. You have another carry bag. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So join our bag series. We're making bags. And we are folding this one with no lining up and making it small. And I am just very, very excited about how small this bag actually goes. And you can put this in any of your suitcases, any bag that you carry, and pull it out. You have another carry bag. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So join our bag series. We're making bags.